I apologize for that. Mike thought I was on mute, but Felicia, I'm sorry. I guess I wasn't. Well, hi everybody, and welcome in. I do have my computer in front of me, which I don't always like to start off that way, but let's go ahead and talk a little bit about what we're going to be working on today. So there is so much you can do with vinyl, iron-on vinyl, and being able to layer your iron-on vinyl to create multiple layers of an item. So like this is an example of a little book tote that was made using three different layers. The base layer was a gold layer, and then a red and a purple was put on top of that to create this look. Now, one of the things that I'm going to put this up here so I can throw these down in front. If we have my little camera, I don't know if you want to put these side by side, Felicia, if that might help people see what we're working with. And I'll just move this one out of the way here for a second. Okay, if we can do that side by side, be able to see some of the different materials that I've worked with. So this is just an example of using multiple layers of iron-on vinyl to create a really fun layered look. Now, we can sort of step that up a little bit by adding additional items to your vinyl. So like layering vinyls is really fun and easy. You can create something that has a lot of different colors on one shirt. I really like to do the type of layering where you're kind of cutting out an image instead of putting one color right on top of the other color like this. But that kind of creates a puzzle and can be a little tricky sometimes when you have them, when you're kind of trying to piece your layers back together. So just kind of keep that in mind. This is a little bit easier to work with when you're just layering one color on top of the other. This is another example of creating those channels and outlines of iron-on materials that you can merge together. Now, I tend to, if I'm going to use a glitter on a project, I will put the glitter as the top layer. It's not really recommended to use iron-on top of a glitter. The glitter usually should be your top layer. Now, that's not to say that if you've tried it and you've been successful with it, you can't do it, but just my like go-to is to put the either just use all glitter or do the glitter as my top layer, kind of to give a little pop to a project. So I'm always about finding ways. I'm going to put this one back up. I'm always about finding ways to add pop to a project, whether it's using multiple colors in one design or just using like sort of a monochromatic look into a design. So here you have two different shades of purple that were created to make this shirt, and that's always a fun go-to look. I did pull out this shirt. This was my very first vinyl shirt I did, and I did it with my home iron probably about 20 years ago. I've since retired this shirt, but I wore that. I was a coach for my lacrosse team, and they were Ducks. So I have worn this shirt for maybe it's 15 years old. I have worn this shirt for quite a long time. But it's always kind of fun to see like where you start and sort of like where you can progress to just in layering different types of vinyls and different colors of vinyls all together. Now, we will be doing some of that this evening, and that is great for beginners. But if you're looking to sort of up your game a little bit, you might want to try some different types of vinyls. Like this is a mosaic vinyl that is placed on top of infusible ink. So this orange layer underneath is infusible ink, and this top layer is mosaic vinyl. And that really kind of gives you like a really fun disco look. This is infusible ink in the little ghosts, and it has a black layer of iron-on vinyl on top of that. If you want to get even a little bit more fancy with your infusible ink projects, you can start to layer multiple types of infusible ink. So like a pattern infusible ink with a solid infusible ink. You can do a solid, this is the Cheers to the New Year, all the black is done with infusible ink, and then I added the glitter vinyl on top of that. Now, you may have heard, if you've used infusible ink or you're interested in that, you may have heard about sublimation. So today's class, we are going to be combining and mixing sublimation with iron-on types of vinyl. Now, you may have noticed in the class, when you signed up for this class, we had a t-shirt on there that had a firefly jar on it with glow-in-the-dark little fireflies around it. We're going to make that shirt today. This was a shirt I made for my daughter for the 4th of July. So the little eagle here is done with sublimation ink. And then the fireworks on the edge, which you may not be able to see super well, is actually glow in the dark material. So if you were to take something like this little bird and cut him out of, say, multiple colors of iron-on vinyl, you really wouldn't get the shadowing and all of the details in this design that you can see. When you're cutting with vinyl, you really don't get all those layers of detail. So that's where you can step it up with sublimation ink and really, give your design not only more dimension and color with the sublimation ink, but then more pizzazz with the infusible ink on top of that. Another shirt example I have for you is this one. The word bride was done with sublimation ink, and then the rhinestones were added to the sublimation ink, and the rhinestone pattern was cut out using a template on my silhouette cutter. And if we have time today and you have questions about that, we can answer those questions towards the end of the workshop if you'd like to. But this is just a really fun way that you can up your skills. Now, when you're using sublimation ink, you won't need to cut it out. You print it out on special sublimation paper, which has the sublimation ink printed on a special printer on top of it. Now, what makes it different is the sublimation ink is ready for heat transfer, and it's basically an ink that sits on top of the specialty paper, and then when it is heated up, the ink releases from the paper and transfers to your shirt or other blank. Now, your shirt does have to be a 100% polyester material shirt. So you've got to have a special shirt with the special paper and the special printer. And I did this with the Sawgrass printer. So that'll be the first project we'll work on. Let me go ahead and pull my computer back up here, and I want to sort of, Felicia, if you want to go back to our front one. Hi, everybody. Share my screen here, and again, if you have any, drop them in the Q&A. I may not get to them right away, but I would definitely love to answer your questions. So as we're working through, drop a question in there. We'll pause and answer some of those questions for you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here with the Silhouette software. Now, I went ahead and did a little bit of cutting on this, so we're ready to piece it together, but I wanted to show you how easy it is to bring in a design, and you can print it right from your Silhouette Studio software. So whether you're making stickers or anything like that, it's pretty much the same process. So you would upload your image to your library. Now, this image I did get on a website called Creative Fabrica, but there are, if you go into the Silhouette Design store, there are lots of printable images in the store as well. I just want to let you know where I got my particular design from. Then I also went into the Silhouette Design store and found an image, and I'm going to show you the image that I found, because I started off with this starry skies and fireflies image. And what I did was I removed the mason jar and the starry skies and flies that was in there, and butterflies. So let me just, I'm going to bring this one over here and I'll show you kind of how I did that. So I got my design, the size that I wanted for my t-shirt, and it's about, I think it's about like 6 inches wide and maybe about 7 inches tall. So with that, I wanted to add the fireflies on top of it. So I brought it in and I grabbed this cut file, and we're just gonna, let me move this out of the way here. Let me grab all of this. I'm going to shrink this down so that it's about the same size as the mason jar. So let me pull all that together, and we'll just reduce this size down so it's about the same size as my printed mason jar is. So we'll just pull that back over. So it's about the same size there. I could go a little bit smaller if I wanted to. Just pull that in a little smaller. And then all you have to do is remove the parts of the design that you don't want to carry over. So for me, that was the mason jar with the words skies and fireflies. So I went ahead and removed those layers, and I just was left with some fireflies and some little glitter on there. And you can, copy and paste any of the fireflies if you want more fireflies on your mason jar. So when I bring this back over, it's a little hard to see. So let's grab our fireflies and our little glitter here. And I'm going to change this color just to give it like a little bit more of a glow effect. And we'll just bring that right on over, and you can see how that's going to kind of work out right there. So you can see those little fireflies in there, and if you want to, you can move them around. You can just pick them up and move them around on the canvas. I like to layer them. When you put it on and you go in a dark room, it really does show very bright. So I went ahead and I set that all up, and I've got my fireflies, and I'm just going to send those to my cutter. Now, because we are ironing this shirt with the design, you do want to make sure that you can mirror your images. So from here, you would just choose that you're using heat transfer glow in the dark material. And when you're ready, you would send it over. Now, the great thing is, I've already got this cut, but I want to show you how it will ask you to, if you want to send it as is, or if you want to mirror it. So when you do this, you would say, send mirror. Now, then you go ahead and do your cutting like you normally do. For the print layer, you would bring this over, and let's grab this one. Oops. Let me grab this back onto my canvas here. And I'm going to move this layer out of the way. Let's see. I'm going to move these guys off to the side here. They're ready to go. But we need to print this. So there's a few different ways you can do this. Since I do have the Sawgrass printer, when I go to File and I say Print, I can choose which printer to send it to. Now, once I hit Print, something to keep in mind, there might be a screen before this one that pops up and just sort of hangs out there, so that your little screen behind it is ready to go. So I would just choose my Sawgrass printer and send it to my Sawgrass printer. You can also, if you don't have a sublimation printer, you can use iron-on vinyl and get the same effect with the iron-on vinyl. So I did go ahead and send this over to the cutter and let me just, oh, I always forget which side I cut it on. I took it off too quickly. Here's my little guys. Okay, so I've got my little fireflies are up here, and I just need to trim this down just a little bit to make sure I have the right size. So let me grab my fireflies. Bring them back over here, and this is going to be about, okay, so I'm going to cut this about 7 inches by 8 inches, and we'll do some weeding on here and get my heat press set up to heat. Now, when you're using I'm using the a desktop heat press, is that the right term? I'm going to be using my larger heat press for this project because I want to, let me make sure I get all my little designs here. I want to make sure that I can use a heat press that will get hot enough. So when you're working with any type of sublimation ink or the infusible ink, you do need to make sure that your heat press will get to 400 degrees. So unfortunately, the sublimation and the infusible ink products don't really work with a home iron, but you can use your home iron for other, you can use your home iron if you are using other types of iron-on material. So if you were to, our other projects you can do with your home iron. My little ducks, that I did that with my home iron to get started with as well. You know, like my first couple projects, I did do the home iron, and it worked out great. But I found that I was ready to sort of up my game, and I was ready to go with either an Easy Press was the first one that I used. Oops, don't do that. I used an Easy Press as my first heat press because it was nice, it was convenient, it was easy to move around and heat up. So I did use the Easy Press first, and then I found I was doing more and more t-shirts. So I went with a larger press. Siser has a great one at Michael's, as does, I think Craft Express also has one. And Felicia, if you're available, we can pop those in there. All right, it's so funny. I should never cut white on white. I mean, it's a white. Usually, I like to do this during the day because then I can hold it up to my window and see where my cut lines are. But we're just going to weed this right on out here. And I'm using Siser's. This happens to be Siser's Easy Peel. Easy Peel. Heat transfer glow in the dark vinyl, and you can see how easily it peels off of my sheet here. There we go. All right, so that comes off really easily. You can, if you wanted to, you could kind of cut that out and save that for another project in the future. And then we're just going to weed out the little pieces. Now, if you are new to iron-on material, you just need to make sure that your design is mirrored. It's really important that your design is mirrored and that you can take out the little parts in the center of your design. So we just are going to take out the little center pieces of our design here. Okay, there we go there. Let me get some more. I've got about 6 or 7 little bugs on here, you can see. And if you want, I can throw up this guy. Now, my Easy Press, or the press, I am heating it up to 385 degrees to 400 degrees. So since I'm doing the infusible ink first, I'll do that at 400 degrees, and then I'll have to turn it down iron-on material. So fun. So I don't know if you can see what I'm doing here. I have my light box, and I'm just weeding out the little edges of the wings. Again, if you are working at home and you do this during the day, I like to throw my design up against the window, and then I can just weed it out that way. But if you're working at night, these light boxes certainly do come in handy to pull up your projects here. So we have this weeding tool. I'm using the Cricut weeding tool, and I'm just pulling these designs right out of here. And you would do this for any type of vinyl. It'll cut. And that's why you want to do the mirror, because you actually have the clear part that's kind of sticking to my hand right here is called the carrier sheet. And the carrier sheet will hold all your little vinyl pieces together. So you don't have to like think about repositioning them where you want them to go or anything like that. You can just keep your layout the way you had it on the screen and just weed out your little pieces. That's all we have to do here. So we're just going to weed those out. Now I do, if you're working with a Sawgrass printer, it will automatically mirror your image. So you don't have to worry about mirroring your image in your silhouette design if you're working with the Sawgrass printer. So here's my little design here, and then my fireflies, you can see, are going to go right on top of that. So the first thing we're going to do while we're waiting for our machine to heat up, I have my shirt here, and this is 100% cotton, 100% polyester t-shirt. And what we need to do is just, the first thing we're going to do is give it about a 10-second press in the heat press. And the reason we're going to do that is that removes any type of extra moisture that might be in the shirt. So it's very important when you're working with fabric and stuff. I'm just going to throw that in there for about 10 seconds. When you're working with fabric, fabric can hold moisture, and the moisture can actually cause a problem with your sublimation print transferring over. So you just want to be able to take out any moisture. So you would use your home iron to remove your home iron or your desktop iron, whatever type of iron heat source you're using. You want to give it like a quick 10-minute press. Now, the other thing I like to do once I've given it that initial press is fold my shirt in half so that I can find where my center line is. So I'll fold it in half, and I'll do just one more quick press with my shirt folded in half so I can pretty easily find the center of my shirt. So you just fold it in half right like there, and we'll just press that fold in the center. And it really only takes, not 10, 15 seconds tops to do that, to give it that nice little press there. Okay, so we'll just give it 15 seconds. It'll press that right on out for us. And then, okay. All right. So I've got my little my shirt there with the fold on it. And I'm just going to lay that out. Now, the first thing we're going to do, not the first thing, we've been doing lots of things. We do want to make sure that also that there's no lint on our shirt. So you can see here, I've got a little bit of lint there. I'm just going to roll that with a lint brush on my shirt. This is a little bit different than what you would do with when we're doing our other t-shirts. You don't need to worry about the lint. But what happens with infusible ink or sublimation prints is that the ink, if there's anything between your surface and your project, that could get in the way of your ink transferring fully over. So if there's any lint in there or dog's hair or pet hair, anything like that, it can kind of get in the way. And then I'm just giving it a little fussy tear there around the edge so I don't get any hard edges on my transfer. So I have my little fireflies. I want to make sure my fireflies are going to fit on there perfectly. They look great. So I just picked down where I want my design. I usually go about, let me go this way. I usually go about 3 fingers from the neckline. Now this neckline does scoop down a little bit more, so I could do 2 fingers, but I think 3 fingers will be just fine. And I'll give a little bit of extra room because I think there's a firefly that kind of goes right up top there. And we want to make sure that it's centered on the design, on the shirt. So you can kind of hold it up and find the center of your design. You just hold it up to the light, find the center of your design, give it a little squish right there. So you have the center of your design, and then you use that markation along the center fold that you creased. So 3 fingers down, the top of my design is right there. I'm going to line that up, and I've got my design is on my shirt. Then you're going to use some heat tape, and this heat tape will not melt or anything, so it's great to use on your fabrics or any of your sublimation projects. I'm going to put a blowout sheet in between my shirt and the design, so like right on the inside of my shirt. This way, if my image transfers through the shirt, it would transfer onto the paper and not onto the back of the shirt. So we're just gonna put that right on there, and then we create our sublimation sandwich. Your sublimation sandwich is your blowout paper, which we put in between the shirt, and then another piece of paper on the top. And I'm actually going to put 2 pieces. I'm just using printer paper. Oh, I do have 2 in there. I'm just using printer paper. And that design is pretty ink intensive, so I want to really make sure it doesn't blow out. So I've got a little sublimation sandwich going on there. And then when you're ready, Felicia, my heat press is all set up. It's giving me lots of heat. And I just am going to do it 400 degrees for 30 seconds. Now, don't forget that we have already done the first press to remove any moisture, and we're ready to do the second press. So I'm just going to carry this over. You could do this right on the press. Normally that's how I would do it. Like if I were working at home, I would just do it right on here. But it's good for you guys to be able to see it. So I'm just going to put this right in there. Now, if you wanted to, the Cricut Auto Press is a great press as well to use as the Siser and Craft Express. Okay, so 30 seconds. My design is facing up. I'm just going to push the button. My design is not facing up. My design is facing my shirt, but that printed paper is the top layer next to my shirt, and then so the heat will go through that paper, and the heat will activate those chemicals and transfer those onto your shirt. Now, if you were doing that on, say, a print vinyl, you would just do a print thin cut in your silhouette. So you would print out your design on vinyl paper, on iron-on vinyl paper, and then you would be able to transfer it that way. So if you didn't have the sublimation printer, that is a way that you could just print out a design using printable vinyl. Okay, so now we've got this, and I do need to turn my press heat down. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn that down now to 325, so we can do our little heat transfer vinyl fireflies on top of this design. Okay, and I'm going to let it cool down just a little bit before the big reveal. Let me put that over there. And as you can see, my tape will just come right off. It just holds the design in place. And there's my beautiful design. So it's transferred right onto the t-shirt. Okay, and then we're going to grab, I probably still can use these just because I'm going to reheat it. So I'm going to put my paper back in the middle. Just put that right back in the middle there. And then I'll take my iron-on vinyl, my fireflies here, and those are just going to go right on the top. Now I can readjust how I had them if I want to, but I'm going to keep it right pretty much how I had it. So you can see where the little fireflies are. Then when I put this in the dark, these will glow in the dark. And it's so cool. We may have a chance at the end of the class, I could turn off all the lights and we can see how the glow in the dark translates to being done. Now, your carrier sheet is on the top of this, so you don't have to put another sheet on top of it. If you want to protect, if you ever like work with rhinestones or anything like that, I do use a Teflon sheet on top of that. so that the rhinestones don't come up on, don't come up onto my heat press. Not that they have, but you just never know. So I sometimes will put a Teflon sheet on top of that. I think this is in like the stamp section at Michael's, so that's always a great little piece to have there. And if you want to look for your glow in the dark, there's a lot of different glow in the dark. There's Make Market, Siser, and Make Market, Siser, and Cricut. I just like the Siser EasyWeed. It's so easy to weed. Probably my favorite weeding one. Okay, so we're just about done. I'm going to go ahead and put this back on. We're almost down to 325 degrees. So I'm feeling pretty confident about this. Going back over to the heat press here. Right. And then this we only need to press for 30 seconds. So we'll just put that right on there and we'll press that for 30 seconds. I'm going to put that in and we'll go ahead and press that down. So it takes just 30 seconds and then you have this cute little glow in the dark shirt. Felicia, were there any questions while that's heating up?
None that I can see so far.
Okay, all right, no worries. So I'm gonna grab my next shirt and we'll start talking about that one next. This one I'm gonna show you how you can layer your vinyl with the puzzle pieces, where you sort of have like a cutout design and you have to sort of work it back together. It's a really easy design, so don't feel like don't be intimidated. And here we go. So now we're just gonna let this cool off just a smidge. And then you can just peel off that carrier sheet and your fireflies stay on your shirt. And there you go. So there's our first shirt. And the great thing about the using sublimation or infusible ink is you really cannot feel it on your shirt. So when I have like the bride shirt, you can feel the rhinestones on top of the shirt, but you don't feel where the sublimation material went. Like that, just those ink release and become one with the shirt. So you can feel where the little our fireflies are here. That medium paper, you can kind of feel where the fireflies are, but where the print is, you just can't feel it at all. It becomes like one with the shirt. So keep that in mind when you think about using your sublimation or your infusible ink. It just becomes one with your shirt. Okay, so our next shirt, we're going to be doing a colored shirt. So a lot of the, when you work with sublimation ink, you don't have the luxury of using colored shirts unless you're using a vinyl, a heat transfer sublimation vinyl that allows you to print onto it and then transfer it. So this one, with your regular iron-on vinyl, you can just use any shirt. You can use a cotton shirt, polyester shirt. That doesn't make that won't make a difference in how your design holds. So I'm just going to find the center of my design again, line up my armpits, my neckline, and everything like that. Now you do also want to, when you're using heat transfer vinyl, you will want to take out any moisture in the shirt as well. So we're just going to do that in there for about we'll do that one for just about those 10 or 15 seconds, and that will take care of that for me. Now, this next design, I'm going to use 5 different colors of vinyl. I'm not layering one color on top of the other color. We're going to be piecing it together. This one we're going to cut together. If you want to cut with me, or if you have a design that you've been wanting to do and you want to cut it, you could. This is a great opportunity to cut a design. So let me share my screen again. Okay, so the temperature for sublimation is 400 degrees. You really need that that high heat to release the ink from the paper and transfer it onto your polyester blank. So I did it 400 degrees for 30 seconds. You can go up to about 400 degrees, I think, for 60 seconds, right? No, 400 degrees for 30 seconds. But you can go up to a minute. Always my default, like if I don't know my settings, for a particular item is I will do 400 degrees for a minute, and then I tweak and adjust if I need to from there. So that is it. So print and cut. So print and cut, you have to, so if you're doing, like, let's say you're going to print on, like there's a material. Let me see if I have it packaging here. I did have it. Not to show you guys, I might have buried it. There is a material, a product called Siser vinyl, and you can print on that and then sublimate it. But basically, you're sublimating on a sheet of 8.5 by 11 vinyl that is set to accept that sublimation print, or you can print out on your regular printer on printable vinyl paper. And I think Silhouette has one of those, and I'll look and see if I have that at my fingertips. But that you can put through your home printer, but it does print on the whole 8.5 by 11 sheet. And that's when you want to do the print then cut. So you would print it on your home printer on the printable heat transfer vinyl, and then you bring it over to your Silhouette machine and cut it out from there. Whereas sublimation, it's just the only thing that transfers is your design. So your design, you don't have to cut it out or anything like that. That's really what allows you to get all those layers and everything. You can just cut right there and do it that way. So let me share my screen here, and we'll go into design, into the Silhouette Studio again, and we're going to pull something up. So Angela, this is a great question. Is the temperature the same on hard surfaces as a cloth? The temperatures will vary based on what your blank is. And that's for everything across the board. So if you're putting vinyl, heat transfer vinyl on wood or on a mug or on a t-shirt, or even like different fabrics will have different temperatures and different times. So if you're putting heat transfer vinyl on a polyester shirt, the temperature and timing will be different, because polyester you can do like at a higher temperature than say your cotton. But there also are special heat transfer vinyls for different types of materials. So there's like sports flex vinyl. So if you're working with like sport running shirts or something like that, you may want a vinyl that stretches in multiple ways. So you may use a sport flex vinyl, heat transfer vinyl, as opposed to just your standard heat transfer vinyl. On my cotton shirt, I'm just going to use the standard heat transfer vinyl for this next design. And I've gone ahead, I think I've gone ahead and uploaded. I've done the upload already. Let me see if I can find my design. Oh, okay, so I'll show you all how to do this. If you want to upload your design, you just click on Library, Import to Library. Now, this is a design that I found someplace else, and let me find it. Stay Cozy. This was on Creative Fabrica again. And I'm just going to pull in the SVG file. So I'll click on that, and it will bring it right into into my software. Now, while it's syncing, I want to talk about how you size your design for your shirt. So different size shirts will definitely take different size designs. So for example, if you're working on, say, a child's shirt, you would have a different size design for a child shirt than an adult shirt. And even if you're doing like an adult shirt for an extra large shirt or a small shirt, you'll have a different size. So what I like to do is put out my shirt, and then I grab my tape measure and I measure across my shirt to kind of get an idea of how big it needs to be. So if I go all the way across this shirt, it's 15 inches all the way across. That would take it right into the armpit. So you really don't want it to go your design to go all the way around the body. So I usually kind of guide it by the center of the shoulders, and then I go down from there. So I'll like look and see where the center of the shoulders are and eye it down from there and get an idea of the width that I want my design to be. That's just an easy trick. As you do more, you'll figure out what works for you. but I just go to the center of the shoulder seams and I just draw down and I figure out, okay, so this one's going to be center my seam. This one wouldn't be any more than 10 inches wide, which this shirt is a medium. So I usually do my mediums between 9 and 10 inches. So I think I'm going to stick with like 9 inches on this design. I don't know, maybe we'll go to 10 inches. No, I'm thinking 9. I'm thinking 9. We're going to do 9 inches. So let me share my screen again. Okay, and so this is the design I'm going to use, the Stay Cozy. So I've uploaded it and I bring it right in. Now, you could very easily go to your library and go to your fonts and pick out different fonts that would work for you. If you've bought fonts in the Silhouette store, they would pop in here and you could use those fonts and make this yourself. Or you could look at the fonts you have on your computer and use those fonts as well. So I just figured for the use of the class, rather than having to design the whole shirt, it would be a little bit easier to just use a design that was already done. So I'm just going to bring this design down to about 9 inches. Let's get it a little bit closer to 9 inches. There we go. So we're going to make this about 9 inches. Now it has 5 different layers of design. So one thing I can do here is, let me see if I go to the send, let me just make sure I've got this right. This may not be. So, okay. All right. Let me explain kind of what I'm doing. I'm a little bit ahead of myself here. Once you're ready to cut your design, if you've designed it yourself and you can move each layer around, you can position these on your canvas so that you can cut it in one cut and not have to put your mat through 5 different times. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my letters around. They're staying together, but I'm going to move them onto my mat. And what I like to do is sort of lay out my mat in a quadrant, if you will. So I break it down into 6 inches squares. So I have 4 squares on my mat, and I'm going to put the Stay in the middle, but I'll put the Z over down here, and that will go in the bottom of my mat. This one's going to go in the bottom corner here. I leave about 1/4 of an inch on each side, so I know about where it's going to go. I need to put my material, and I'll show you how I do this on my mat. Okay, so we're just going to do it like that. And then the Stay, I may do that one separate. Let me just see here. Let's see here. If I bring this one over to the 4-inch line and I bring this one back up to the 8-inch. So I'll put 3 colors across the top, 1 color in the bottom here, and then this last one will go, I'll put that down on the bottom here. So I've moved everything around, but this will allow me to cut multiple colors at one time. Now, if I were going to do Stay in, say, a glitter iron-on, I would definitely want to cut that different, but I'm using the same type of heat transfer vinyl iron-on material for all 4 of these colors, so I can use the same cut settings for all of my colors. So when I hit the send button, it's gonna usually it would come up right here in your simple. Now, since I've spread everything out, that makes it super easy to see where it's going to be cut and how everything's going to be cut. If you wanted to do it one color at a time, I would recommend you go to, say, the fill layer, and then you can click off until you have the layer that you want to cut is the only layer that you see showing. Then if you go back over to, if you stay here, it would only cut that one layer. But I am going to go ahead and cut all of my layers at one time. So I'm going to stay on the simple. And I'm going to change my material to heat transfer smooths. Okay. Now, before I set this up to send over, I'm going to stop sharing my camera and we'll go to my overhead camera and I can show you all how I set up my mat so that it will kind of make sense for you. Okay,
Hey,
so
Jasmine,
yeah.
just want to remind you, don't forget to
Mirror.
mirror. I was looking, I was like, she haven't mirrored yet.
Well,
No,
you know what,
but
it would have changed my colors, but you're right. Thank you
but you
so
know
much.
what? The beauty of a silhouette is that when you get ready to cut, it will ask you if you wanted to mirror or not.
Yes, because once I hit send, it will, if I say send mirrored, it will, oops. Nope, we don't want it to cut yet. I don't have any material in there. Oops. Okay, let me just pause that. And I'm gonna, oh, look what I did. Let me go back. I'm gonna come back to my design here. And like Felicia mentioned, you can either use the software to mirror it for you, but since we're doing it a little bit funky today, I'm going to go ahead and flip my design horizontally so that now everything is flipped over. And you can see like my colors are going to change just a little bit their placement, but everything is going to be about the same. I'm going to go, let's see, I'm going to put this one at 1 inch, put this one at 4 inches, and this one at 8 inches. There we go. And then this one I'll do the same about at 8 inches. Okay, and then you'll see at once I show you my mat, you'll kind of get a better idea of what I'm talking about and why I'm doing it that way. Felicia, you're so smart to call that out about mirroring, because you know we always forget that. I always forget that. So
It's
my
as a cutter or as
Mhm.
someone that does the same thing, I've messed up material enough to remind someone. Yes.
We've all done it. We've all been there, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to cut my pieces about 3 inches by 6 inches. So I'm just using a paper trimmer. You can use scissors and fussy cut this. If you don't have a paper trimmer, I would highly recommend you grab one because they're so easy to use. They make everything easier. So let's see, I'm going to use a green color instead of the burgundy color. So we're going to go 3 inches by 6 inches here. Okay, and then I have my orange color. We're going to do 3 inches by 6 inches again. And I kind of went into my scrap bin and pulled out some scraps of different iron-on materials. So these may be from a variety of different packages and different manufacturers. So everything should cut about the same. I'm going to put a little more pressure. I'll show you how easy it is to change that. So you can see, and this is 1, 2, 3 inches of my dark brown color too. Just get that one. That's right up the line. Okay. All right, so now I've got all of my paper is all trimmed down, and if we want to go to the overhead, I'll show you how I'm going to make this all work, how we make the magic happen. So when I load my mat into my machine, it'll load across the top and down the side. So my first color I have is my pink. So I'm just going to take the pink and line that up in this first box where I put the Z. And you see I've got it lined up on the 1 inch now. My Z is going to go over a little bit and cut just shy of the 3 inches there. Then I've got the hunter green color, and my O is going to be at the 4 inch. So I'm going to place that right there. And then I have my lighter brown color here, and that's going to go at the 8 inch. Right here. And then I have my orange, and that's going to go on the 8 inch as well. So let's push that up there. And then I have the darker brown for the stay. And I'm just going to put that one right here. Okay, so now you can see, if I turn my mat over, but remember it's going to be mirrored, how I've got my colors laid out. and they're all right on my mat. So if I share my screen one more time, you'll see how that's all going to work. Okay, so see how you'll see how my mat is. So I've got the purple and the pink in the upper left hand corner, my stay and everything like that. So when I'm ready to put this in my machine, and send it over, I just have to load my machine the same way. So I'm gonna turn my Cameo around so you guys can see how I load this into the machine. So I've got that turned around, and I'm going to this software. Already did that. So that's going to go in, and I'm going to use the heat transfer smooth. And I want to restart. Oops. No, I don't want to do that. Sorry. I don't have my material in there. I paused it. Okay, so I've got it already. I'm going to load this in. So I've got that pink color. You see that pink is in that top corner. I'm going to load that in. Okay. It's connecting. Oh, I may have disconnected it. Syncing. Sorry. I think because I kept kicking it out. Just a minute. Okay, it's ready, and I'm going to send it over. Now, this will do all of the cuts at one time. And I need to send as is. I don't need to mirror it because I already did the mirroring. A little bit weird about this guy sticking up here. You may have to watch this one. Okay, so while that's cutting through, you can see as it's cutting through, it'll cut on each of my individual colors and cut through on the designs as it goes. While that's working, I do have, sorry, turn my back. I do have another design that we can get prepped up. So this will also be a t-shirt, obviously. And I'm going to do that same trick with getting my fold in there. I should. I don't know. This guy has a little wrinkle. Sometimes you just have to like get those wrinkles out before you can work with them. So we're just gonna throw that right on here. And like that. Heat press, do its magic. I took out those wrinkles for me. Before I fold it up. Okay, there we go. There we go, everything cut out there. All right, so let me just do this one. I like to multitask. I don't know about you guys, but like, and it seems sometimes it drives me crazy. Because I multitask when I'm doing something. So it's like, oh, I'll let that cut. And while that one's cutting, I'll go ahead and work on this other project. So when I do it in class, I hope that it's not confusing to you guys as we're working on one project to sort of prep the next one coming up. All right, so we'll just get that a nice little press there. All right, so and if you ever are like questioning yourself, am I using the right settings on my material? You can always look at your rolls of material to see what the settings are. Usually it will say on your rolls, like if you're using, for example, if you're using Make Market Orange, it will tell you the settings that you need on your machine. So it says, you do it for 270 to 290 degrees for 15 to 30 seconds. So I do mine at 320 degrees. We're gonna do it for 30 seconds. All right, so now this one will be ready when we're ready for that one. So the next step is obviously to remove our pieces and do our weeding on these on these designs. So let me grab my weeding tool. And if I didn't, if you had more questions, it's a good opportunity while we're doing a quick weed on our colors. If you had any questions, we can answer those questions for you. Yep. So just let me throw this down here. Okay. Now, when you're doing multiple colors like this, we can put these together like a puzzle because we have that little bit of cut out in the design. So we're just going to get that corner started. And I forgot to increase my cut on this, so I'm a little bit nervous. Did I do it right? And how am I doing on time? Okay, good, on time. I just hope I cut this with enough force. I did, because I was using a variety of different vinyls, I usually like to add a little extra force on it so that it weeds really nice and easily. And I hope I didn't make a mistake here doing this. I should also look, let me look real quick and see what my colors were. Sorry, let me pull this up. And I'm just gonna, I want to look and make sure I've got my colors the right way. So my pink is the Z. So I'm just gonna give this a good, it kind of helps to know. Like I was thinking, oh, I was thinking my pink was the C, but it's actually the Z. Now, also something to remind you guys, your iron-on material, you do want to store it in a cool environment. So if you're in one of these heat areas, you do want to take care of your supplies and keep them stored in a cool environment, especially once you've opened them out of the packaging. You want to just keep them in a little bit of a cool environment if you can. I think I read somewhere that, don't hold me to this, but I think I read somewhere that your iron-on material does have a shelf life of it. And I thought that was kind of interesting, which kind of makes sense. Okay, so here we go. We're just pulling this right out. The other, this is kind of fun to see the difference between using your infusible ink or your, let's see, the brown. This is, oh, that's brown. Okay, this is my, I think this is my O. Yes, this is the O. My green is the O. One of the difference between using your infusible ink, then your infusible ink does come like a sheet. So it's a pre-printed sheet of sublimation ink with a carrier sheet. So it's still going to have that clear plastic carrier sheet to hold everything together. So you still will need to cut and weed that type of material. If you're using say if you're going to use the, I'm reading this out weird. If you're using your sawgrass printer, you don't have to weed that. That will just, you just leave the design on your paper and it just cuts it right. You don't have to weed it. So your time to create your designs is much faster because you're not doing any weeding or anything like that. And you don't have to worry about, do you have the right color of material on hand? That's kind of nice too. Okay, we are going strong here. But the other nice thing, if anybody's planning on doing, say, a market for the fall season or anything, you can, I think I'm tearing this up. If you're doing a market for the fall season, you can just have your vinyl on hand and customize right on the market. Sorry guys, it's hard to do this without my little window cheat. And this center of it is a little bit trickier. I just have to make sure I'm getting the right layers picked up and out. So if you're doing, I'd love to know if you are doing a side hustle and you're doing a market for the fall, if you've already started working on your fall projects, and if you plan to do any customization at your market, or are you just going to sell pre-made items, like off the rack type of items, or do you add your customization on demand? All right, I'm doing something. I feel okay. Here we go. I need my little light box back. I'm missing something here. There we go. All right, I think I got it. There we go. I wasn't sure about that little piece there. It was kind of throwing me off. Okay, so then the brown is just my C. So that'll be pretty easy. That's just gonna pop right off there. There we go. So you always have to remember that you have mirrored your image. So as you're starting to weed, you may be thinking like your C is going to be one way, but it's really flipped over the other way. So just keep that in mind as you're weeding your design out. That we're pulling it out the right way here. Here we go. There we are. How to get it going the other. All right, so there's our C. See, our C is just plain old C. And then our Y has just a little notch cut out of it on one side. So I'm just looking for my regular Y to cut through. That's always makes it easier when you can just weed it like that. You don't have to worry about finding all the little pieces, making sure everything stays together. Okay, so there's our Y. And then the last piece is the stay. So this is the piece that's going to kind of hold it all together as we're cutting. So we're just going to pull that off. Get that together. So this will be the S. Now this is the Y, so it'll go stay. So this is the end of it over here. And my T. If you have a design that has a little eyes or anything like that, you always want to keep your eye out for the eyes so you don't tear those, you don't weed those off. Okay. Here we go. Oh, this stays. It's staying together on me. Let me just go grab my light over here and see if I can see this just a little bit better. I don't want to tear it off. Sorry, people. Dude, let's pull up our light box and see if we can see it that way. Nope, that doesn't help me. So I'll just hold my fingernail sometimes on the spots where the cut is, and then that makes it easier to weed off. I think the most important thing as you're weeding your materials is just to be patient. The cuts are there, you can see them, but sometimes if you're working with something that's thin like this one, you just have to be a little bit patient with it and make sure you don't pull it off the wrong way. I don't want to, for sure. Okay, there we go. All right. Maybe I should recut this one. I feel like I've mangled it. Why don't I do that? Why don't I recut this and we'll work on that as this is recutting. I apologize. It is I just don't want to mangle it and make it seem like it takes a lot longer to do something than it does. This should not be It should be a quick little cut for me. It's just very thin. So let me just redo that one real quick. I'm going to send that one back over. It's already mirrored. I don't need to worry about mirroring it. We're just going to put some more brown paper,
And
more
don't
brown
forget
vinyl right on the top of the mat. And we'll just send that back over. And while that's going over, we can,
go
I
ahead
know
and
I'm
increase
running
the
short.
pressure as well, Kesley.
You know what? I did. Thank you so much. Let me show you all. I'll send it over and then show you how I increase the pressure because like I said, I use a variety of different vinyls. So sometimes one type of vinyl, if you do that test cut, you may say like, oh, that needs a little bit more pressure. So you just need to add that pressure on there. So let me share my screen here and I'll show you how I added that pressure onto there if I can from the screen. So right up here where it says force, it was at a force of 4. So I went ahead and increased the force right there and I increased it to a 9. So that will just push the blade in a little bit more. I don't need to, it cut through just fine. So I don't need to increase the blade depth. So the blade in the machine is fine. I don't need to increase that. I just need to maybe give myself a little bit of a cleaner cut as I was going through. So let's just see if that worked. Ooh, put me right to the edge there, Felicia. All right, so let's see. That gave me a little bit cleaner cut. Yes, so much cleaner. Okay, here we go. Oh, what a difference. And I still want to go slowly so that I don't pull up anything. Okay, there we go. And by pull up anything, I mean, I don't want to see it's very thin. So you don't want to pull up too much of a line. Pull it too aggressively and break your line. But the good thing about iron-on material is if I were to have gone aggressively with it, I could always sort of like tape it back together when it irons together. So if you make a mistake in your weeding and you tear your design a little bit, you can fix that in the iron-on part of it. Okay, so there's my stay. Now, what I'm going to do for this design is actually do the word stay first and then add the other pieces around it. And that's where the puzzle part comes in. So if I pull up my shirt here, here it is. Okay, so I'm going to pull up my shirt and we're going to look at how this is going to come together. So let me just do this. And I have that iron-on piece, that iron fold there, so I know where it's going to lay, where the center of my design is going to be. So I've got my word stay, and that's going to go in the center. So you can kind of, again, I'm just going to fold it in half and make sure I know right where the center of my design is. I go about 3 to 4 inches down from my design like that. And there's my center line. I've got my center crease right there. So for example, after I put I did mangle that a little bit. My O is going to go right there like that. So I have that little outline around my letter that's going to let those pieces fall into place around that design. And I can piece it back together and see exactly where it needs to go. Okay, so the first step is going to be doing this, the word stay. And for that, I'm just going to do a quick press, nothing too, not too long. I just kind of want to do a kiss press on that as it goes down. So let me go ahead and put that in my machine. I'd say right there with me, Felicia, and I'm just going to give that a quick press. And we're going to come back and remove that off. So I just do it for about 10 seconds at 325 degrees. Okay. And the reason for that is I'm going to be heating this up again. So I don't want to have too much heat on here. Like I don't want it to have too much heat on it. So I just want to have enough to sort of hold it in place. And you just very carefully want to pull it back and make sure it stays down. And then we can come back in and start putting our pieces in. So let's start with, I think that, oh, it's probably the easiest one to start with. So I'm putting that in, and I've got space between my letters, so I'm just gonna go ahead and cut that extra part off. I'm gonna put that right in there. So you can see how I can nestle it right in, and I've got the room around it. The C is gonna go right on, like the other piece. Let's do the C-O-Z-Y, cozy. But you just want to make sure that one, that this like green one doesn't cover up my Z. So if the green extends over a little bit too much, I will just come back in and we'll just take off that carrier sheet a little bit. Now I could go ahead and just press the O and then the Z and then the Y. We're going to do it all in one press. Part of the reason any presses is if you over press the vinyl, it can and it will wrinkle on you, and then it doesn't look so good. Oops, I probably need to trim that off. It will start to wrinkle. So if you ever over press your vinyl, it will wrinkle, and then over time it doesn't adhere very well over time. Okay. So there's my C-O-Z-Y, and then my Y will have just a little bit onto the Y on the shirt. See how that helps me line everything up on my shirt? And then my C. Again, I'm just going to give it that press, but this time I'll let it stay the whole time on my shirt. So there's my cozy. Everything's lined up. It's all on one. This orange piece overlaps on top of the pink, and that's okay because the pink will go down, and then I'll peel this up and then peel that up. If my orange sheet were down like that and I put my pink down, the pink would overlap into the orange transfer sheet. And then that would mean that little corner of that pink would not transfer over. Okay, so once you've got this all set, we're ready to go back over to our heat press. We're just going to set this right in there. The heat press, the vinyl already has the transfer sheet on top of it, but I do not want where there's no transfer sheet on top of it to press down on with the press itself. So I use that transfer sheet on top of that as well. Now I can do the same thing with this last design I have. It says, oh my gourd. Oh no, this one just says my gourd. Kind of a fun design. So this, I have my little center line there. I'm going to line that up. I'm going to put that on. Now I do have my stem, and this can go right underneath my other vinyl carrier sheet. I just want to make sure that my stem does not interfere with the transfer of the yellow. So I'm going to trim that down just a little bit and make sure that that is outside of the yellow. Now this one, I'm going to go ahead and put this in. Again, I've got two layers going in, but they're layered next to each other. So they're not on top of each other for this design. I'm going to put that in. That's what my carrier sheet on top. This one I'm going to do for about 15 seconds because I'm going to come back and put in a sentiment on top of it. So let me just weed that out real quick for you. Oh my. Let's get that weeded out. Now we do every week, and so you can catch me in another class. Also, if you design something for the fall, I would love to see it. And you can tag Learn with Michael, can see it. So, and if you have other questions that we didn't get to, or maybe you were just shy tonight and didn't want to ask in front of everybody, which always reach out to me on a social media platform. You can reach out to me on Instagram at Kesley.365. And I'm happy to answer your questions as you are learning or trying something new. If you get stuck, you can always reach out to me. So I'm always happy to answer questions. Let's just take out the O there in the center, and then we will do a big reveal in a second. So this one I did a little shorter time with the pumpkin. It's the board. So these two colors I just did a little bit shorter time, and I'm going to peel those right off. Now, actually, Felicia, if you go to the overhead camera, you guys will see. I want to show you something that it's okay if this happens. It didn't quite stick down. You do want to wait until it cools off a bit. But if it doesn't stick down completely, see like that little part of the pumpkin there is sticking up, that is okay. Just press it down with your finger, come back to another part and pick it up. You do want to let your material cool if you can. I get anxious sometimes, so I always like to cut as quickly as I can. But you want to let it cool. And since I'm okay that little spot there didn't stick down perfectly, because I'm going to take my Oh My, put it right on top of there, like that. And then we're going to put that back into the so this time I'm going to put it in with the sheet, because part of my design is it's like part of the vinyl is showing. Now, one downside to doing this is sometimes your carrier sheet will press into your design. That does go away over time, I found. But if you're selling shirts, sometimes that can happen. So you may want to just make sure your top layer is cut enough to cover the whole design. You waste a little bit of shirt, you know what I mean? Okay, so let's go over here. I've got my C coming right out. Let's check on my O. Yes, it's beautiful. And I just hold my thumb along the design as I take it off like that, so that my material stays down as I peel it off on my design here. Here we go. Now, one thing to keep in mind, your vinyl can stretch, especially if you're using like a stretchy vinyl. Your vinyl can stretch. So I don't always like to do too many colors, because the vinyl can stretch on you, and then it kind of gets like funky, if that makes sense. But there we go. There's our cozy with the cutout and the multi-layers. And then here is the Oh My. Which I don't know why that image looks, there we go. This is the Oh My right here. And I can just peel that right off. So don't be afraid to put your vinyl one color directly on top of another color. I usually only do 3 colors. 4 would be like super a lot for me. This would be really cute too, with glitter black vinyl on top of this one. I always love a good stay cozy, stay inside. Have your pumpkin spice latte type of shirt. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I do apologize for going over, but I'm glad you guys stayed with me. And again, let me see what you do. tag Make with Michaels on Instagram, and you can always reach out to me at Kesley.365 on Instagram. I'd love to see what you make, and let's get to it. Thanks, guys.